Happy to have you along. As always, we are joined by Greg Engert, beer director for the Neighborhood Restaurant Group of Food and Wine Sommelier of the Year. The group including Columbia Firehouse in Old Town, also Evening Star Cafe in the Delray neighborhood. Greg, it is always good to see you.
You too.
What is on tap this week?
So for this week, we have a brand new release from our friends at Allagash Brewing Company up in Portland, Maine. And this is from their limited edition series. It's the second release from the limited edition series. We actually did the first one too. It's called FV13.
Okay, I remember that. Yeah.
And this one's called Merveilleux, which is French for marvelous. And this series is really cool for Allagash because it involves, well, first of all, it's some of the rarest beers they make, some of the most time-consuming beers they make, and it always incorporates funky wild yeasts and bacterias as well as oak barrels. So for Merveilleux, this is a blend of a number of strong ales that have been not just aged, but fermented and aged in bourbon barrels or wine barrels with yeast, but also with Brettanomyces, which is the wild yeast that gives it that kind of funky intensity in the nose, Pediococcus and Lactobacillus, two positive bacteria that incorporate wine-like tartness and some fruit-forward flavors as well. Then blended, it ends up being 9.6% alcohol, and I'm sure as complex as any other Allagash limited release.
All right. Ooh, I really like that. Kind of just bang, the taste. It's
and not as sour.
Right,
as,
no.
Not as sour as FV13 was, actually. Really, really nice. The cool thing here is you can tell the oak barrel usage is as pertinent as the wild yeast and bacteria. So that acidity is enveloped by the tannic dryness from the wood. And then in the nose, you get tons of that like cool vanilla bourbon caramel quality as well. It's a fascinating beer.
That's very enjoyable. The Allagash is best known, are they not, for the wit beer they make?
Yeah, the Allagash White Classic. That's where it all started for them. In 1995, Rob Todd, who is the founder and owner of Allagash Brewing Company, started in 95, one-man brewing operation, just brewing keg after keg after keg of Allagash White. And now Allagash White's the kind of go-to for a lot of people who aren't even into craft beer. But back then, he had the hardest time convincing people to drink this cloudy wheat beer with orange peel and coriander, and he just worked and worked and worked at it, and then now here they are, one of the most established, most respected, and best Belgian-style breweries in the United States.
It doesn't seem like Allagash has had this problem, but do you know of any example when a craft brewer gets so well known for one particular beer, and it's so popular, that one particular beer, that people aren't as willing to try maybe their new offerings? Is that a problem they run into much? Or?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Or with the opposite, you'd think the opposite would be true, that if they did that so well, I want to try everything else.
I think that's part of it. I think sometimes closer to what the more interesting point I think would be is like how it segments. You know, for instance, I think some people love Allagash White so much, maybe the same kind of people that are just drinking, sweeter, more fruit-forward Belgian-style ales, wit beers of any kind. Maybe they first started with Blue Moon, moved on to Hoegaarden, and then found Allagash White, which is the superior product. They might stick with that because that's what they know, and that really fuels the sales. And so those same people might not be the ones who are going to see this on the shelves and say, oh my God, we got to try that, because they're kind of happy with the Allagash White. In some ways, I think the other stuff tends to satisfy the geeks and the people that are looking for all the other things, and it keeps their brewers, it keeps Rob himself interested in expanding their ideas of beer and brewing and things like that. So another great example would be like Fat Tire from New Belgium, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a brewery that almost was, New Belgium was almost not even the name of the brewery. A lot of people just thought it was Fat Tire. That was it. So New Belgium has been very, very careful to continue on their path to brew all these different amazing beers that they've been brewing for a long time now. The segment of Fat Tire is huge and continues to be huge for them, but they also want to show that, we're more than a one-trick pony.
Yeah, I mean, Fat Tire is a great beer, but I really enjoy some of their other offerings, like the Lips of Faith series. Some amazing stuff that New Belgium has done.
And let's not forget, La Folie is like the original American sour ale. I mean, that was one of the first sour ales to be around before sour ales were popular. And it still is as amazing as ever. And actually, I should mention, Halloween coming up pretty soon now.
Yeah.
This will be the third year in a row that we do something we call Night of the Living Ales at Church Key, where we do just, we're known for doing sour beer events, but this one's the monster, and I get a lot of cool beers in for it. And this year we're going to have 40 of the 50 draft lines pouring funky, wild Living Ales sour beers on Halloween night. And to New Belgium's, the point about New Belgium, we'll have some La Folie on draft, and I'm really excited about this, La Terroir, which is the kind of almost a blonde version of La Folie. One of the best beers they make, one of the most celebrated. It'll be the first time that we've gotten it here in DC.
Oh, fantastic. What would you pair this with?
So when a beer like this, it's definitely got the wine-like characteristics. I automatically start thinking about, French kind of bistro food and things like that. So whether you're doing funkier charcuterie and pâtés and rillettes, I think it's great. You've got salt, you've got earth, you've got funk. Finding all those things here balanced against the acidity, that's amazing. Cheese course is great. Anything goat's milk, anything tangy, époisse, but also chèvre. That's great as well. And then in between, I'm thinking of, I'm thinking like French like stew, like cassoulet, rich and, because this has a malt body to it too. So you got that rich bean quality, which would be great with the sweetness up front. Acid to balance the salt of the duck and the confit that's involved as well.
And we've talked about this before. This would be, again, a good introduction for someone wanting to get into this style of beer, the tangier, more tart. But this is not sour.
Exactly, and that's actually something that's very important because, especially with Blue Jacket now, we're playing around with a lot of different sour beers and such. And the other day I tasted one of our test batches, and it's a sour brown ale, and I was like, this is fantastic, but it's not really sour. It's acidic and got a nice light tartness. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, this might not be sour enough for some people. And one of the issues we're having now with sour beers is there's almost, sometimes people are confusing, again, intensity with complexity. And I can honestly see somebody tasting this and going, oh, it's great, it's complex, but it's not sour enough. Actually, it's more balanced, which is what it should be. So I'm looking more for my sour beers, I'm looking more for an integration of acidity rather than just a puckering distraction.
All right, if you're looking to move away from your usual day-to-day or weekend-to-weekend beer, depending on your preferences, if you're looking for something like that, this is a great thing to pick up, I think, and try. If you've got a question for Greg, send us an email to beeroftheweek@WTOP.com. Greg, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Everyone, please always do drink responsibly, and be sure to bring your thirst next time for another Beer of the Week.